Hi, welcome to How to D&D. My name is Fred Wheeler and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons because I always do talk about Dungeons and Dragons. The topic for today is personalizing your spells in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. It's not something that everybody comes across, but it does come up and I thought it was a decent topic to discuss. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to front. I will provide you with a summary and conclusion first on the topic. Then I'm going to show you everything, and then I'm going to discuss personalizing spells and Tasha's as we go, and I show you the content. So where is this stuff? You're going to find it on page 116 to 117 of Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. It's less than a page. Don't get too excited, okay? But it still addresses some interesting things, and I thought it was worth actually discussing. So Wizards of the Coast have given you permission to alter how spells look when they are cast. Yippee! Okay, alright, so I know a lot of people are thinking, well, I don't really need permission. Do they need to actually give me permission? But there is probably a reason behind this, and you'll understand as I go through. Personally, I think most Dungeon Masters will generally allow cosmetic changes to a spell without there being anything in an official Dungeons and Dragons book. But I'm also completely sure there are exceptions to that. So that's probably a good reason to actually put it in a book, just because there will be exceptions. And those exceptions will probably fall into Dungeons and Dragons Adventurers League. Changing the cosmetic appearance of spells might seem like a pointless or exercise or a waste of space in a book, but I like it myself, and I think many people enjoy doing it. So that's why they've gone and put it here. And actually it addresses some other stuff that comes up. As I've run public games before, personalizing spells does actually pop up from time to time. It requires creativity, imagination to think about how magic spells will manifest in a Dungeons and Dragons game. I actually like that aspect of the game, you know, that creative side where players are actually willing to tell you what their magic looks like rather than say, I cast Fireball, I'm rolling, and they roll some dice and that's it. The great thing is that anyone can do this if they set their mind to it, and it requires no special mechanics, apparently. But there aren't really any special mechanics behind it. It probably requires a little bit of guidance, but that's about it. A wide range of examples are provided and ideas for players who might not understand the intention behind personalizing spells or struggle with creating their own distinctive spell appearances. Nice. Thank the gods, though, and I am thanking the gods. Thank the gods they created distinctive themes, or a way of creating distinctive themes for Dungeons and Dragons 5e and their spells, and there's no more feats required. Unlike Dungeons and Dragons 3.5, where there was actually a feat for customizing your spells in this way. And I know somebody's like, are you kidding me? And I'm serious, there was. The designers have stipulated two important mechanical limitations and restrictions to personalizing spells for players who probably will looking for a loophole. Not every player is doing this, but often you might come across this. I certainly have. Did there need to be any kind of mechanical effect or benefit to personalizing spells? I think that's probably one of the questions people have is, look, that section, there doesn't seem to be any mechanical benefit whatsoever. In my opinion, there doesn't need to be a mechanical benefit, okay? Frankly, right now, players' characters already have the kitchen sink. They don't really need anything more. Although I know there are players who really, you know, always just want more. And that's understandable because their way of playing the game is slightly different to the way I would play the game and my view of it. And certainly it's hard to explain to players that if you give them everything, it's not healthy for the game they're playing. And they'll never understand that until it's too late, unfortunately. Anyway, that's beside the point. That is my personal view. Now, Deborah Ann Wall personalized her spells while playing in Critical Role. And I don't know if anybody ever watched that particular episode, but it left a significant impression on the people there. And I thought that was quite interesting because I have come across it before. So what was the big deal? And she did a very good job of it. I mean, frankly, as far as I'm concerned, she did a brilliant job of actually personalizing the spells that she was using. And she did the one thing that a lot of players don't do, and that is she did not say, does my spell now have this mechanical effect to it? You know, does it do this type of damage instead? She did nothing like that. I have experienced as a dungeon master and as a player the use of personalizing spells. So I've personalized my own spells. I've been a dungeon master and had players who tried to personalize their spells in the game. And I guess the thing to understand when you come to personalizing spells is player motivations around personalizing a spell is a mixed bag. There are players who have good motivations, and there are players who have, I would say, bad motivations, or motivations that really are looking for mechanical benefits. And, you know, that tends to be the way that everything works nowadays. We always look for mechanical benefits. Now, the thing with personalizing spells, I've actually come across this more often when I am running games for Dungeons & Dragons Adventurers League games as a dungeon master. So well done, Wizards of the Coast, for addressing this particular area. And I would also like to point out I have had many stories and seen many kids play Dungeons & Dragons, and they love to personalize their spells. They like to put a twist on it that's all their own, and all the power to them. I think it's a great idea. So what is in this book? What actual content? Let's have a look and discuss this. Just as every performer leads their art in personal flair, or lends their art in personal flair, every warrior asserts their fighting style through the lens of their own training. So too can a spellcaster use magic to express their individuality. So it's about being individual in terms of what you're doing. Regardless of what type of spellcaster you're playing, you can customize the cosmetic effects of your character's spells. Perhaps you wish the effects of your caster's spells to appear in their favorite color, to suggest that the training they received from a celestial mentor, or to exhibit their connection to a season of the year. The possibilities for how you might cosmetically customize your character's spells are endless. However, this is the important section, such alterations can't change the effects of a spell. So that means the mechanical effect of the spell stays the same. You cannot go and personalize the spells and essentially try to make a completely new spell. And I know some players have tried to do that at my table. They also can't make one spell seem like another. You can't, for example, make a magic missile look like a fireball. Now, why would you do that? Usually I've found in my games the players are trying to use it to intimidate and scare off monsters by using a less powerful spell to try to get them to run rather than to have to try and hit them with multiple damaging spells and destroy them or use a higher level spell. So they're trying to conserve spells and they're trying to use it as a way of scaring monsters off. It's not actually a bad idea. I guess the problem is that the motivation is not completely pure behind it. So therefore, those two restrictions are actually really important and will be really useful for people running Dungeons & Dragons Adventurers League games. Now, if you don't run these sorts of games, they have now answered those two questions you had to sort of mull through, because these are the things that players will present to you. Now, as a player, if you're doing this, if you are looking for those two mechanical benefits, please don't do that, okay? Because it isn't kosher. You know, it's not the sort of thing you do. It's not about, well, I'll just see if I can get away with it. You know, there's a lot of leeway given to you, a player, when you're playing with Dungeon Masters, and I wouldn't abuse that if I were you. When customizing your spellcaster's magic, consider developing a theme. Often the broader and more versatile, the better. You may describe your caster's magic whenever you wish, particularly when it makes an interesting addition to the story. You may also use it to reinforce other choices you have made to your character, like making a bard's spells tied more closely to their favourite art form, or a cleric's spells themed around their deity. For example, the fireball of a wizard with a fondness for storms might erupt like a burning cloud or a burst of red lightning without affecting the spell's damage types. In other words, it's not doing lightning damage, it's still doing fire damage, it just looks like this. While the same wizard's haste spell might be lamind the target in a faint thunderhead or thunderheads of some kind. So it doesn't have to be they sparkle, or if you're talking about fairy fire, you could have them surrounded by butterflies for all you. It doesn't really matter. Okay. Alternatively, a cleric who serves a moon god might radiate faint moonlight around their hands when they cast Cure Wounds, or their Shield of Faith might surround the target with glimmering crescent moons. Further still, a druid could choose a cherry blossom theme for their magic, causing delicate branches and pink leaves to grow when they cast Entangle or Shillelagh, and their fairy fire spell could appear more like a wind-tossed petals than flames. So there's another way of sort of describing it. Now, here's a really good part of this whole section. The Magic Themes table offers just a few suggestions that might inspire you how to sort of personalize your own character's spells. And I've got the table here, so we'll go through this and have a look at what we've got here. So at the very top we have page books, origami. So can you imagine suddenly a whole lot of origami animals floating around as you're casting your magic? Quills or ink, all accompanied by sort of the rustling sounds and library scents, something like that. Brine-scented shapes of sharks, jellyfish, octopi, or other sea creatures. Food or utensils that carry the scent of cuisine from the spellcaster's homeland. So if you're into cooking, that would be a good one. Rich copper scents accompanied by what appears to be the caster's own imbalanced humours. Well, this seems a little odd, but I'll go with it. Bursts and strokes of watercolour painted by an invisible brush. In fact, you could even include the brush as part of the spell cosmetic. So you might, everything that you do with your magic might have a brush involved. So I like this, somebody who's into art. Transparent weapons, armour, miniature war machines, and phantom soldiers. They may be the theme for your spells. Golden rays that carry the faint warmth and hint of a wind-blown sand. I don't know really where that's coming from. I guess that's themed around the idea of a desert. Rowdy barnyard animals accompanied by warm scents from a stable or something like that. I guess it's an animal theme that's not sea-based in this case, or farm animals as such. Manifestations of deep emotions like the faint shackles of melancholy. I mean, all of these seem pretty good to me. The last one, tiny, whimsical, or fearsome beings from the spellcaster's inescapable recurring dreams. That's quite odd and certainly very interesting, particularly if you have a character that has a lot of baggage, and that's probably what's going on here. There's a lot of baggage being carried around. So I actually like all of the things that they have included in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything with regard to personalizing spells. Could there have been more? Obviously there could have been more, but I think there's enough to get you started, particularly if you're just starting out, and as you're more experienced you'll develop more ideas. So if you found this video useful and helpful, fantastic. I actually have a series of videos on Tasha's Cauldron of Everything for players and how to sort of use the subclasses, and on the Dungeon Master tools. So you're welcome to go and check that out. If you're not interested in Tasha's, that's fine. I have hundreds of videos for players and Dungeon Masters covering every aspect of Dungeons and Dragons. If you want to support the channel so I keep doing content like this, you can do that by supporting me through Patreon, the Amazon affiliate links down in the description, the merchandise shelf underneath my videos, or just watch my videos, that's fine. And hey, do all the normal YouTube things that people ask you to do. Share, like, subscribe, hit the bell button to be notified when I go live and when I publish new videos. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s.